I am back and here to make more prediction videos, but for now I'm going to talk about SC being in the Big Ten Conference. I'll be talking a little bit about last season. We'll be talking about the preseason rankings, and then also just some of the strengths and weaknesses or opportunities, threats or challenges that SC will face going into next year. So first off, I guess I'll just talk about the being in the Big Ten. It's weird to think that it's finally here and that the Pac-12 is officially no more. And to think that if you were just to turn on the TV in the middle of October or November and watch Cal or Stanford or Arizona State, one of those teams, that those games have now zero relevance to SC because they're all in different conferences. These are teams that are fairly close by, and there'd be implications for Pac-12 rankings if SC's involved in those, and that's no more. And now to think that Purdue or Northwestern or Rutgers, teams like that have technically more relevance just because now we're all in the Big Ten Conference. And you got, of course, you got Ohio State and Michigan as well, also relevant. So should be interesting, should be a lot of fun to watch. I would say it's certainly going to be a lot more challenging because you got those teams, and then you also have Oregon. So I think the path to a conference championship is going to be harder than it's ever been compared to the Pac-12 or the Pac-10. You just have more, with more great teams all consolidated in the conference. There's just more obstacles to get to that number one spot. So that's what it is. But with college football, to kind of get a lot of these big name teams playing each other every year, and it's guaranteed, that's a lot of fun. More challenging, but also a lot of fun. Now, getting back to predictions, last year I made predictions for every game. I did preseason predictions, and I was for 11 of the 13 games I was correct, and in some of those, for my score predictions, I was, let's say, scarily close, scarily good in them. And for the last two games, UCLA and Louisville, I wasn't so great. So I've been on a losing streak with my predictions, and going now into the Big Ten and opening with LSU, I'm even less certain. I really don't have as good of a feel for things. I'm less familiar with a lot of the Big Ten teams and style of play. Of course, Ohio State or Michigan or those, but just pretty much most of the other team, or Penn State, but most of the other teams, I'm not watching them super closely to kind of get a feel for them the same way I had a feel for the rest of the Pac-12, which is no longer in existence. So with, and also looking at the predictions, with my preseason predictions last year, I had higher expectations for SC, but then after the first game, when I saw them play, I knew I needed to, let's say, revisit those expectations and predictions, and I did, and so I made those changes, and again, I got 11 of the 13 games correct. So we'll do the same for this year. In my next video, I will give my predictions, wins and losses for all those games, and then at the end of the season, we'll revisit and see how accurate they were. And again, after that first game against LSU, I might have to rethink again other predictions. So that's just part of the fun. For myself, just a regular football fan. I'm not some expert or X's and O's type of person. Just regular person. Like the game. Maybe I like the game a little too much. SC football is my focus. I'm not really going to be talking too much about other teams unless they're playing USC. So that's what you can expect from a channel like this. Now, looking at the preseason rankings for the Big Ten Conference, Ohio State and Oregon at the top, that makes sense to me. I think it's fair. I think both teams have earned it. And then you got Michigan and Penn State afterwards. I know Michigan lost Jim Harbaugh and, a decent amount of talent. But they're national champions. They still are. So I would say by default they deserve to be at the top or close to the top until proven otherwise. Penn State, solid team, and then you got SC and Iowa. I've seen sometimes Iowa ahead of SC, but 5 or 6 doesn't really matter to me. SC could be ranked 7th, 8th, or 9th, or 10th. They could be at the bottom of the conference in the preseason rankings. I don't care. It's just more of if they can, use that as motivation to play better. That's how I see it. I feel like if you're ranked preseason number 1 in the country or just in the conference, you have that target on your back. And I feel like SC, when they have that target on their back, in many cases they'll fall under pressure, and that's normal. Every team is out to get them, and if every team's always, they're not going to give their 100% for all other games, but they'll always give it for SC. That's a lot. So you can imagine even now with SC not even being the top ranked team in preseason, I think there's still just a lot of teams that are just excited to play SC no matter what, and give them their best. But again, without having to be ranked number 1, it helps a little bit, or at least it's more for SC to feel like they have something to prove and not rest on their laurels. So that's good. Now SC, of course, they're not playing Oregon or Ohio State, the 2 top teams in the conference, but they're not playing the bottom 4 either. They're not getting Indiana or Illinois or Purdue or Northwestern. So that's, I guess, the trade-off. And SC plays pretty much everyone in the middle except basically Michigan State. And so I think with the schedule like this, and you got LSU open up the season, Notre Dame, very reasonable to say SC's going to drop a couple games. I don't see a scenario where they run the table and at least in the regular season, let's say, have double-digit wins. It's just I'm not saying that in a kind of just to be critical for being negative sake, I guess, but just looking at it objectively and not kind of looking at it, drinking the Kool-Aid or wearing cardinal and gold sunglasses or anything like that. It's just a really challenging conference, and to have LSU and Michigan as 2 of your 3 first games in the season, to win all of those is an extremely tall task, and it's very likely you lose at least one of them. So, and then you got all the other teams on the schedule. So now I will say though, what makes at least in terms of something to be optimistic about for SC is, again, there's no more Alex Grinch on the defense. That was the biggest problem and probably the biggest mistake in Lincoln Riley's career, was to keep him in that second year for SC, or even just bringing him along in the first place. Because SC, I thought, in that first year with Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams and the offense, they did so well. And if they just had any other defensive coordinator, just an average defense, they would have gone to the playoffs. They would have won the conference. What could have been. And even in the second year as well, I think the second year was actually, in terms of just the talent or who they played against, I think that was would have been a more challenging year than the first year. And I don't know if they maybe would have still been able to make it to the playoffs or win the conference if Alex Grinch weren't there from the beginning. But they just still would have had better chances, and things would have been they just would have been better. But he's no longer there, so that's good. You got a better defensive coaching staff now. D'Anton Lynn, the defensive coordinator from UCLA, did a great job there. Entz, he's got a proven track record himself. Belks, all these guys that they have are proven, but the challenge is they're still connected to a Lincoln Riley team. and a defense connected with Lincoln Riley. And the criticism is well deserved, I would say, of Lincoln Riley when it comes to defense. Amazing at offense, but not having that defense has proven costly. And I think you could get away with it in the Big 12 for sure. Could kind of get away with it in the Pac-12, but not last year. And going into the Big 10, you just won't get away with it, period. If you're playing Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, at least a combination of two of those three teams every year, and that's what you kind of have to, in addition to Notre Dame every year, if that's what you have to go through to kind of get into a conference championship or get into a playoff spot, you're going to have to do things differently. And having let's say, a lighter defense, more finesse kind of style of play and all that, that may not work as well when you're trying to go up against Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State. I think it could work against lower level teams in the Big Ten or middle of the road teams, but the ones at the top, you're gonna have to adapt more to their style of play, and that's what SC I think is doing. That's why you've seen with the defensive line that they've put on, like, I think as a collective unit, like over 300 pounds. I think the team as a whole, I saw some number that they put on over 1,400 pounds. So just bigger overall, and that's just what is needed. Now, I would say during the Pete Carroll years, I think SC had that right combination of size and speed. And I think during those times, they were better than the whole Big Ten. The Big Ten had all that size, but they didn't have the speed that SC had. I think SC has the speed now, but they just got to complement it with the size and the strength. And, next year we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, there's still going to be plenty of criticism or doubt because it's still connected to Lincoln Riley. So we might look at, everything and have reason to believe things will be better. But I guess if you're looking at the college football world in general, they'll still have their questions. So I would say it's an opportunity for SC to kind of embrace the kind of the doubts that everyone has and the negativity that they have, or the hate that some people show, and use it as motivation. So we'll hope for that. But still, as much as they can improve, when you got Michigan, Penn State, Notre Dame, and LSU on your schedule, just those teams alone, to make it through the schedule unscathed is going to be extremely challenging, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I think in a best case scenario, SC, I think SC, finishes maybe double digit wins after the regular season, after bowl games, and then maybe into a 12-team playoff spot as like one of the last teams in the 11th or 12th. Again, best case scenario. But, more of a regular case scenario, I just see, single digit wins, hopefully the higher single digits. And then, some decent bowl game for that. Now, with SC as a team, and you look at recruiting, I guess they're doing okay. It's kind of interesting because when you look at the recruiting class for 2025, they have more guys from the South. You got Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Virginia, Texas. Guys, I think the majority of the guys committed are from over there. They're not, you have some from California, but it's actually the minority. So it's an interesting strategy to see that Lincoln Riley and staff, they're recruiting the South heavily, and I would say they've had some success. But if you're a USC fan, and you've seen the likes of Pete Carroll or even Kiffin or Sarkisian and those guys, they focused a lot on Southern California, kind of locked the region down, and could get all that good local talent. And I think it would still be nice to see if SC can tap into that local top talent, blue chip talent that is here, and not see it go to Oregon as much as they do now. And I know with NIL, everything has changed. That, 5 years or 10 years ago, those were a completely different set of rules and different set of strategies. And with NIL, you could get a lot of guys that would otherwise like to go to SC, but if SC doesn't have as competitive or as appealing of an NIL package, they're going to lose out on a lot of talent, and I think they have. I think they have lost out on a lot of it. And of course, like I said, they got some great players, but I feel like they could be getting a lot better ones too. Now, at the same time, SC still has to prove themselves, let's say, on the defensive side of the ball. If you're looking at guys who want to get developed and go to the NFL, there's other coaches out there and teams that like Ohio State or Alabama or wherever that had these track records. And then you would see guys go to those programs, and you would see guys that who otherwise in Southern California that could go to SC go to those ones. So it's really important that we see improvement on the defensive side of the ball this year, because maybe then, hopefully in combination with better NIL deals, I don't know what it is, but like offensive line or defensive line talent is, let's say the quality and quantity, I would say, I guess if you're just looking at rankings on Rivals or 24/7, whatever, Scout or running the 24/7, those sites, there just isn't as much talent on the line positions as I would say as there used to be. And so like SC would have to probably go, to other places in the country to get that talent. I find that to be a challenge for SC in the future, on that front, because I think maybe just that same talent isn't there, and what is there isn't going to SC right now. So that needs to change. But anyway, that's all I wanted to share. Give you my thoughts. I know this video is getting a little long, but I had a bunch to say. So fight on.